Next, how we go about reward. Now this brings in a little bit of neurobiology, the involvement of a neurotransmitter, a brain chemical messenger called dopamine. Dopamine is all about reward. You do not want your brain to run out of dopamine or else you will become clinically depressed. Dopamine, cocaine works on the dopamine system. All sorts of euphoriants work on dopamine. Dopamine is about reward. At least that's what people used to think. And they used to think it would work as follows. You take a monkey and you've trained it in some task. You give it a signal, a light goes on in its room, and that means, okay, this task is about to begin. And the monkeys learn that if it now does this task, whatever the work is, it will then get a reward after some delay. And what everybody assumed was what dopamine was about was once you got that reward, dopamine levels went up. Dopamine was about pleasure, reward, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, all that sort of thing. Turns out that's not what dopamine is about. It looks like this instead. You've got this monkey trained to do this task, and the signal comes on saying, okay, we're starting one of these sessions again, and then the dopamine goes up. What is this about? This is not pleasure of getting the reward. This is, I know how this one works. This is great. I'm all on top of this. I know exactly what to do. Piece of cake. I got this under control. I'm on this one. It is not about reward. It's about the anticipation of reward. And in fact, if you block that dopamine rise from occurring, you don't get the work. It's not only about the anticipation of reward, it's about the goal-directed behavior it is able to fuel. A very subtle additional piece of it, a wonderful study done some years ago where you take this scenario, okay, the individual, the monkey, does the work, and after the delay it gets the reward 100% of the time. Now instead, in this setting, it gets the reward only 50% of the time. What happens now when that signal comes on? What it looks like is this. You switch over to 50% and the dopamine levels explode through the roof there. What have you just done? You have introduced the word maybe into your equation. And that is reinforcing like nothing on earth. That signal comes on and that monkey is sitting there saying, piece of cake, I'm on top, but I'm such a screw up and I'm not going to be, oh, but today I'm going to be, no, it's not going to work out. And you just have them teetering there on this fulcrum, and that is pushing dopamine out like there's no tomorrow. Just to show that, now instead of a 50% reward rate, give the monkey either a 25% or a 75% reward rate. Totally opposite things. This one is bad news, this one's good news. What's the one thing they have in common? Both reduce the unpredictability, both lower the dopamine surge to the same extent. Take a monkey, and there's nothing more addictive out there than the notion that there's a reward lurking out there, and it's a maybe. And what some of our best social engineers, many of them making a good living in Las Vegas, learn how to do is how to turn what seems like a 50% reality of reward to make it that salient when it's 0.1% of a chance of reward, how to make one get that dopamine surge and get that goal-directed behavior out of there. So it turns out that brain chemistry works exactly the same way in us. In us, dopamine is about the anticipation reward. Uncertainty boosts it up further. It drives the work needed for the reward.